Hey guys, Muncheez here, and today we're going to talk about this massive patch. This video is going to be a little longer than usual. I'll leave the TLDR and the classes affected by the Palanch patch at the beginning of this video right here. So it's pretty much the Reaper release. You get a Punica Power Pass with it with the Hyper Express to 1445. There's a tripod system update. There's some gold economy updates, Procion's Protection, which is a new player buff, a new MVP system, Stronghold updates, guild updates, Proving Ground updates, which is the PvP updates. There's the Makoko Challenge updates, UI updates for your interface, and then there's a Shadow Hunter transformation change. You will no longer turn into a cockroach. There's quality of life things pretty much for the world map. There's a Guardian Raid Stagger Bar now. There's a new selfie mode for those of you who care. The Reaper Agent and Dawn skins, and there's Arcasia's Fidelity and Will skins, and raid balances, class balances, and hallucination set is being changed. Now, the classes that are affected by the balance patch are BT Zerker, Gunlancers, Paladins, Destroyers, which have a lot of changes, Scrappers, Soulfist, Glavier, Artillerists, who also have a lot of changes, Sharpshooters, Machinists, Gunslingers, and Arcanists is the last class that has a bunch of changes. So the three classes that have big changes are Destroyers, Artillerists, and Arcanists. Now, let's get into the rest of this patch in more detail. I'll also leave a link to these patch notes in the description below. Now, the very first thing that they talk about in these patch notes after the announcement of the Reaper and everything, it is the transfer system for your tripods. The first thing they tell you is about the special amulets. So these amulets pretty much just bring them up to whatever specified level that the named amulet is for. So if it's like a Hope amulet, for instance, that you can buy out of the Legion Raid token shop, it'll bring it straight to 4. And there's Wishful amulets that you can get from events and stuff that'll bring your tripod straight to 5. So there will be a different type of named amulet, whether it'll get it to level 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you can get all of these from out of Chaos Dungeons, like you normally would with the gear that we were getting prior to this when we were doing transfers. Now, if you have any random tripods that you didn't get to, or you ran out of space for, or you couldn't sell or do anything with, you can still use them as transfer materials. Like you can transfer it onto your tripods, but you can't get them anymore from the Chaos Dungeons. They won't drop anymore, but you can still use it like one of the new amulets if you have anything left over. Now, for those of us who are going to be using the new system, there's a chart down here that tells you the success chances for the transfers for the new tripods. So everything has pretty much doubled. So if you're trying to get a level 3 tripod on something, it'll be 60 to 100% with a Powder of Sage, and then it'll be 25 to 50 at level 4, and then 10 and 20 from level 5, which pretty much everything has doubled in chance. Now, there is a gold economy update. They're pretty much just saying that they're trying to get rid of some of the easier ways that bots can get gold. Like from the rapport, there's some early gold reward, so they're probably going to get rid of it. And they're going to replace it with things like books and silver and whatnot. And they're trying to put in events and stuff that'll get people to actually apply to raids and actually do the raids themselves. So in regards to this, they are just going to remove the gold from the rapport rewards, and they're going to remove the gold from the welcome quest completion rewards, and they are lowering the gold that you can get from the normal difficulty abyss dungeons from Orejas from 1500 to 900, so 600 gold less. And another portion of these changes they listed underneath is they're introducing a new event vendor. So this is going to be an event where you can spend gold on valuable items. They say the limited time gold shop will have a variety of themed chests. They're focused on honing materials, engravings, and etc. I don't know what the etc. is. There is a weekly purchase limit, and it'll be in the game until December 14th. And then they continue to say that they're going to monitor the effects of these systems onto the economy. So they're going to watch the economy and see how these things affect it. Now, the next thing on the list is Procion's Protection. This is for newer players. It provides a buff that increases damage dealt to monsters by 10%, and it reduces damage received by 20%. So once you've cleared the Legion raids 11 times or more, or once you pass Vicus hard mode, the players that are getting this buff will no longer have Procion's protection once you reach those points. So once you've cleared 11 times or more, or you have passed Vicus hard mode. And the next thing we have is the MVP system. So now you can have the 3 players and the MVP, and then the player with the highest score receives an emphasis in the UI. So like if you've watched the KR streamers, you'll have like a big portrait of yourself if you're MVP, and then you'll have like your trusty sidekicks to the right of you, right? And then star players can use MVP motion to pose on the MVP screen. So now the menu, there's an emote in the MVP settings. I guess you can set which pose you want when you MVP. They added new MVP categories like last one standing and counter puncher. And they updated and improved the calculation methods for the MVP contribution. So prior to this, they were taking all the data from like all the pulls until like you cleared out like gate 1 or something of like Valton. So now failed contributions are no longer accounted for MVP calculation, and the MVP calculation is only active during each gate's like the combat. So every pull, there's a new like MVP thing that starts over. If you guys are familiar with damage meters from World of Warcraft or anything like that, it basically resets every time you start the encounter again. Other than that, they just added some medal icons for the categories for the MVP, and there'll be an MVP cutscene for PvP matches now, and the MVP is now shown for each Abyssal Dungeon and Abyss Raid Gate. Now, there's like this massive section about Stronghold updates. I'll try to sum it up for you guys. It's pretty much saying you can gift things to people, so after you buy something with royal crystals, it can only be royal crystals, and it can't have the embargo on it, meaning it has to be after the 3 days. You can gift it to somebody. So if you don't claim the gift as well, it is sent back after 30 days. And then you can do like quizzes and stuff now. So there's a bunch of like these mini games and stuff, like timers and all this. I guess you could have like relay races at people's, strongholds and stuff now. And you can also go inside the manor now, and there's going to be more researches and stuff. You can unlock floors to your manor and have like different, like, I guess you can decorate the inside of your manor now, and you can just have more areas to there. And they're adding, the most important thing I think is that they're adding more teleport points, so you can get around your stronghold much easier. But for the most part, it's just mostly quality of life stuff too. They're making it easier to place objects and easier to like decorate your stronghold and things of that nature. But other than that, they're just adding an NPC where you can purchase more structures if you wish for your stronghold, and it is off to the guild updates. So for the most part, these are all basically like cleanups. I guess they're kind of cleaning up the guild UI a bit. The only two things that kind of stand out for me is one, they are changing the number of competitions and schedules for Medea, Slime Island, and Death's Hold. So I guess they said before from 8:30 to 10 there was 5, and then now from 8:30 to 9:20 there's only 3 competitions. So I'm not quite sure what that means. And then they're adjusting the Bloodstone rewards and PvP XP points that are obtainable from like the following islands: Medea, Slime Island, Death's Hold, and Naruni, and Snowpang. So before, if you PvP'd a lot and you're like a certain rank or something, you'd get rewards. So I guess they are they're changing them. They're not saying if they're increasing them or decreasing them. I wish they would. But yeah, that's the guild changes, and then the PvP changes are up next. All right, so the first thing they got on here is they added the bots, right? Actual bots that you can play with or practice against. You can practice against Berserkers, Scrappers, Artillerists, and Sorks. If you are brand new, this is awesome. If you were trying to get into the PvP scene, you can probably use this kit to get kind of, a little bit comfortable with it. The other thing here that I think is pretty cool is they added a feature where you can see someone's book of coordination on the leaderboards, and you can copy their book if, you either think their build is really good, or if you want to use their own build against them, or whatever reason you have, you can copy someone's build now. So now they have a cumulative penalty time. It increases depending on the number of penalties. So the first one was 20, second one's 40, third one's 60. And the last one on here, it says a whole 120 minutes. So if you get this debuff, which prevents you from queuing into anything PvP that's like Proving Ground related, the debuff will only go off, like it'll tick down on the timer only if you are connected to the game. So if you are logged off, the timer says, it has 30 minutes left. You would not be able to get rid of the 30 minutes just by logging off. And it states at the very bottom here, a penalty is given if you leave the match before the results screen is displayed after the match time is over. So be careful, I guess, Alt F4ing. So the next thing on the list is the Quest and Makoko challenge updates. So previously at 1370, once you pass 1370, you lose your Makoko buff. Now it goes up to 1415, but the damage is only increased by 10%, and the damage you received is only by 25%. So there's still a buff, but it's not as prominent as the one at 1370 and below. So starting from the top here, we have the icons, which have been added to battle items, showcasing the item type for players to better understand which category they belong in. This is awesome. So now you don't have to mouse over it to see if it's a bomb or a grenade or a potion or a battle potion, right? They'll just have little icons over them, and you'll be able to tell what it is just by looking at it. The next one we have here is they added a view roster progression toggle. So if you ever had those quests where they were roster bound, so it was for your whole roster, but you wanted to do it on one character and you were stuck because you had to accept it on another character and you were stuck with it, you can get rid of that quest now on any character and you can complete it on any character that you want, not the one that you got forced to accept it on. Now, when you're adding new cards, the confirmation window will now show how many card slots you have. So if you're saying you're trying to learn cards and you're getting kind of close, and you're not sure, there will be a confirmation that tells you how many card slots you have left. So they added colorblind filter options, which have been improved to make ranged attack and area indicators shown on the ground when using a skill are more distinguished, while a photosensitivity filter is active. So when you have that photosensitivity filter, it has you set it on or off when you usually turn on the game for the first time, but I'm pretty sure there's an option for it. So if you want to check out this setting, it's in your settings somewhere to turn on the photosensitivity filter. So when you sort your auction house listing, it's defaulted now by the buy now price. So if you're like me and you always were hitting that button, now it does it for you. So you never have to do it ever again, which is awesome. So amongst all these other quality of life changes, they added a Legion Raid special category to the integrated dungeon UI. So for all you Hell mode enjoyers, you can queue through one entry menu now instead of going through the regular menu clumped up with everyone else. Now, my favorite one on here is after using a chain skill now, a new meter will show how much time is left. So the best example I can think of is on Shadowhunters. If you're running Demonic Impulse, is they have that dash when you're out of demon form where it's like the double dash. When you dash the first time, there'll be a ring around the skill now that kind of ticks down to kind of tell you and indicate how much time is left before you can chain them together. And the last thing on the list is that they're improving the spectator mode. So if you die or something before, previously, if like you're observing someone, you couldn't really transfer lead. But now during spectator mode, party leaders and raid group commanders can be transferred. Now we got some good stuff here now under the general updates. The Shadowhunters transform, you're not going to turn into a cockroach anymore. So they keep the same form, and I guess they're just going to make you glow and stuff. I don't know what they're going to do. But yeah, so no more cockroach form if you're playing Demonic Impulse Shadowhunter. The next thing on this list that's super cool is when you're honing your initial set of tier 3 gear. So when you're going from 12 to 15 now, the base honing success has been increased to 30%, so more free honing for everybody. And just under that, it says the crafting cost of item levels 1302 and 1340 gear has been changed from gold to silver. So no more gold to get to 1340. I'm actually also super happy about these world map changes. They are making it so you can zoom in or out of the world map to see all the continents at once without needing to select individual zones. It's not clunky anymore, meaning you don't have to like click out and then click in an individual zone. You can just kind of like zoom in and out, and you can mouse over a continent and you can see detailed information about the continent just by mousing over it. You can have a triport legend now, and it showcases all the triports available within the current continent. And you can just kind of click on one of the triports as opposed to having to go to the zone and then click that triport and do all that craziness. They made Argos all 1370 now, so all 3 gates are 1370, and they also added gates to it, so you can do gate 1, gate 2, and gate 3 separately if you need to, or if you're like strapped for time or something, and you don't have time to do it all at once. You can do them separately now. The Guardian raids now have stagger bars, and you no longer have to clear previous Guardians to go do the next level, so this is great for newer players. You don't have to go and do the older ones just to do the last one in a tier, and now you can have more time to throw your pheromones. The fleeing animations were extended, and now when you're moving through Chaos Dungeon, your buffs will be kept now. So like if you have like a buff like Pinnacle or something like that, your buffs won't fall off now when you're changing gates. There were some mounts added, I guess. So now the Plump Crab Fishing Guild Vessels, there's a Ritter mount, and then there's a Sturm mount. There's one in Vern, one in Yorn, and then I guess Batuark on Forp now drops the Tamed Red Wolf mount. They improved the Trixian Training Ground character settings menu so they can easily be reset. And they also adjusted the trade skill resource spawn. So in the tier 1 and tier 2 areas, I guess they lowered the resources spawning in them. And it says here, like, the spawn rate for mushrooms, lush trees, and saplings have been reduced in tier 1 and tier 2 areas. After that, they just kind of talk about some settings they added for the selfie mode, like they added some stickers and poses and whatnot, and some improved controller supports for those of you who play on a controller. Another thing to note is that there's a store update here, and you can buy South Vern power passes now. So when you buy this pass, it's 66 from 0 to South Vern, and I'm pretty sure if you're going from Punica to South Vern or something like that, it'll be 10. So every level is minus like $10, 1100 royal crystals. Whew, and that's not even the end of it. So for the sake of the time, I'm going to make another video that's going to cover the general balance updates for the class changes, the dungeon changes, and some of the things about the tripods that they didn't mention earlier. And they have skins and stuff too, so I'll put that in another video. But if you made it this far, thank you for listening or watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.